You know, I have been to a lot of theme parks, but I can tell you with 100% confidence, I have never been to a park as beautiful as Europa Park. This is in Rust, Germany, and there's a reason why this place has been voted the #1 theme park in the world. This is one of the most immersive places on the planet. There are 15 European themed areas spread throughout this massive park, and inside that are over 100 attractions, 13 of which are roller coasters. It is ridiculous how much there is to do that, yeah, if you're visiting for the first time, plan on more than one day. We did 2 days at Europa Park, and I personally thought that was perfect. The crowds were at a pretty good level where I thought that 2 days we were able to get as much done as we felt that we needed. So I'm going to do my best to kind of run through the kind of experience that you're going to get visiting here. I'm not going to go in depth to any of the roller coasters. I'll have reviews out for the major ones, and those will be separate coming soon to my channel. But let's kind of get to the basics. This place is massive. It is ridiculous how big Europa Park is, and everything is very spread out, so it takes a while to get from one attraction to the next. And while we're talking about that, it is easy to get lost. Yes, I did get lost at Europa Park a few times, but that's also because I didn't memorize the park map or anything. I was doing my best to try and get lost in the immersion, but still kind of retain my sense of direction. Yeah, that all just went out the window. I had no idea where I was going, but I didn't mind it because there was so much to see and do. Let's kind of run through these themed areas. So we have Adventureland, the Minimoys Kingdom, that's where Arthur is, Germany, naturally, England, France, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, the Netherlands, Italy, Grimm's Enchanted Forest, Austria, Luxembourg, Portugal, Russia, Switzerland, Scandinavia, and Spain. So some of these areas aren't really big. There's definitely some that are a lot bigger than others, but they're all very well done. Some of my favorite areas, I really like Switzerland. Italy was awesome. I would say France was probably the best area. France is that area surrounding Eurosat. You have this small lake in the center with these fountains that kind of dance to music. You have French buildings all around it that are restaurants, various attractions. And when you have that kind of Epcot-like ball as your centerpiece, if you want a place in Europa Park to just kind of sit back and take in your surroundings, just kind of relax for a few minutes, do it in France. It is amazing there. But that being said, you could probably relax in like any of the areas. They're all really good. Some of the sections that really stood out to me, what I liked about the Switzerland section was that you essentially kind of had this one main pathway with the buildings really tall and really close. So this pathway is very narrow, and it's all made up of cobblestone. You have the Swiss flags flying above you. There's a little stream that kind of goes down the center. That's also where you have your bobsled coaster. It's just really cool. That section alone is more themed than most parks in America. Some other sections that are really cool. So Grimm's Enchanted Forest. This area is not themed to a country, but instead it's kind of themed to fairy tales. So think like Efteling style stuff. It's towards the back of the park. It's as you're walking towards Arthur. And there aren't really any rides there. It's all just this little buildings that kind of help tell stories of different fairy tales. So lots of animatronics and statues. And it's not just on the main pathways. I highly recommend using the bathroom in this section. I don't know how it is in the women's restroom, but I peed next to a gnome. Where else can you do that? It was weird. But that's just one of those areas of Europa Park where you really feel separated from everything else. You don't feel like you're in a theme park. Some other areas of note, Ireland is their kids area. So if you're a thrill seeker, you probably won't be spending too much time there, but I'd still suggest like walking through just so you can kind of see what it's like. And there is a children's coaster there, so if you're counting credits, be sure to get that one. It's actually themed to sheep, which is adorable. Another favorite area of mine is Iceland. That's your section where Woden is. Very cool because they're kind of immersing you with myths and legends. I wouldn't say there's as much theming to that area as maybe there is others, but it's still just like a really neat section. And of course, Woden, the theming is incredible. One area that I thought was themed very well was Greece. Back there, you have Poseidon, which is their water coaster. So you have the Greek, like Parthenon-like building. All the architecture is very similar to that style that you get when visiting that country. Lots of whites and blues. And of course, England. For those of you in the States, if you've been to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Busch Gardens does very well with their kind of England entry area. And I would actually say Busch Gardens does the England section better than Europa Park. Maybe because I just felt like it was a bit bigger. The England area of Europa Park is not super big. Like, it's not as big as like France or Italy. And there's more themed areas to Europa Park. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because we would be here all day. Those were just kind of the ones that stood out to me, but I do want to kind of move on and talk about some other stuff. As I mentioned, I'm not going to talk about the roller coasters, but I am going to talk about them in general, what Europa Park does. If you've seen my dispatch video for Europa Park, this park probably has the fastest operations I have ever seen. They are ridiculous. And that's with bins on the ride platforms. So all those associates out there who work at parks in America saying, well, the reason why our operations aren't as fast is because there's bins and so it takes time. Well, Europa Park proves that you can have bins on the ride platform and still send out your train in 30 seconds. It's pretty amazing. A lot of these coasters also have really elaborate queue lines, so you actually don't mind waiting in line because it's interesting and the line moves really fast. Euromir probably has the least detailed queue out of all of them, but it has a dope soundtrack, so it's okay. I didn't mind. I was not a big fan of Euromir, but I rode it again just so I could hear the soundtrack, so it's okay. Some other theming that could use some work, Silver Star. The theming feels kind of out of place. It's kind of themed to Mercedes-Benz, which is blatant product placement. And you will see some product placement around Europa Park, but to me it's still kind of a little weird. Because most parks in Europe don't really have product placement, but Europa Park is one that does. But I will say it was not over the top like Six Flags, where you just look everywhere and there's ads. Europa Park, it's kind of strategic where they put it. One downside is they do assign seats here, and in my experience, they were kind of reluctant to let you pick your own row. Some rides like Woden did have a separate line for the front row, but let's say you requested the back, there's a good chance that they aren't gonna allow that and they're just gonna send you wherever. And kind of on that same topic, they also do staple here. So if you're one of those people that likes leaving a little wiggle room so you can get some airtime or whatever, just take note of that. And then also the wait times are really accurate here. So if you're following along and you're like, okay, Blue Fire has this long of a wait, it's pretty spot on. One thing I really loved about Europa Park is there's lots of street performers and they're all original characters. And for me, that's just something I loved. Because one thing that I've always kind of had a problem with Disney or sometimes even Universal Parks is that they have these characters, but they're kind of tied down to them because they're seen in movies. And so then when you see them in real life, either the costume is going to be spot on or maybe not as accurate. And so it just kind of makes you have these feelings towards it. But what Europa Park has is they say, no, we're not going to use any characters at all. They say, no, we're not going to use any well-known characters. We're just going to make up our own. And so what that does is immerse you in the park itself. It's something that then you only associate with Europa Park, which I think is very smart. It's a different type of strategy than what Disney does. But you have to remember that Europa Park is very kind of Disney-like. I would way sooner compare Europa Park to Disney before I would a place like Cedar Point. Even though a lot of people say, okay, Cedar Point and Europa Park have kind of gone head-to-head for what is the best park in the world, but they're nothing alike. Europa Park is similar to Disney, but it's what I wish Disney was. It's no secret, I'm not a big fan of Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. In my opinion, Europa Park does Disney better than Disney. And I think that's saying something. Because, ready for this, Europa Park has several rides that can be compared to Disney ones. So they have a Haunted Mansion-like ride, except this one is way darker. There's an executioner and severed heads, and it's awesome. And they used to have a Pirates of Batavia ride, but then it burned down in a fire, but it's coming back, so it's okay, but that's kind of comparable to your Pirates of the Caribbean. And if you want even more similarities, look no further than Europa Park's mascot is also a mouse. So just think about that for a sec. And I guess what's just amazing to me is that so much of the public around the world hasn't heard of Europa Park, when I think this place is absolutely incredible. It is by far one of the best parks in the world. I totally understand why so many people think it is the best park on the planet, and I wish more people knew about it. And it's man, if you're going to Europe, I don't care if you're a coaster enthusiast or even a theme park fan. I highly recommend Europa Park. Anyone in the family can enjoy because there is something for everyone. And I know I say that with a lot of parks, but here I really mean it. All of the restaurants are so different. The food is authentic. The theming is the best in the world. The immersion is top notch. There's so many shows and just things to do. And especially like if you're staying in an on-site resort, I mean, the Europa Park, it is a resort. It just really kind of adds to that magic that so many people talk about when they talk about Disney parks. No, I think Europa Park, you feel the magic more than you do at a Disney park. But that's just generally speaking. I mean, I'm not going to go into like specifics with like certain areas or whatnot. Because I think you could definitely argue that areas like Pandora or the upcoming Galaxy's Edge will be much better themed than Europa Park. But I'm just kind of speaking generally. If there are some things that I think that Europa Park does kind of lack, they do only have 3 thrill coasters. So most of them are family rides. But I guess if you kind of think of this as like the Disney of Germany, then it makes sense. But I'm just glad this place does have thrill rides. But I think that it would be good for Europa Park to get another major thrill coaster. And because this was kind of established as the Mack Rides testing ground, I wouldn't be surprised if their next major coaster is something from Mack Rides, which I don't have a problem with as long as I think it should be a thrilling coaster because they already have so many different family coasters. It also would be kind of nice to see a few more kind of thrilling flat rides. There aren't really too much here. One that I really like is the Voletarium. That could kind of be compared to Soarin'. It's your flying theater, except I think this thing is 10 times better than Soarin'. It is incredible. The graphics, the immersion, you smell everything on screen. The Voletarium is amazing. Do not miss out on that. But some other things to note, they also have an observation tower. There's a monorail, kind of your transport attraction. There's like a little like boat kind of raft ride that you can just kind of take around on this lake, and it's like super cute. And of course, one of my favorite things at Europa Park. This isn't an attraction, but in a way it is. It's Food Loop, the roller coaster restaurant. This is one of the best dining experiences I've ever had. Not at a theme park, just in general. One of the best dining experiences ever. It is amazing. There's no waiter. You order everything on like an iPad, and it delivers the food to your table via a roller coaster. And the food is good. And because it was so entertaining watching the food be delivered on roller coaster, I was tempted to spend more money because I just liked seeing everything travel down this track straight to my plate. So 100%, please eat at this restaurant when you visit Europa Park, especially if you have never done anything like it before. There aren't any in America right now. There's very few around the world. Europa Park got the first one, and it is fantastic. So on that note, final thoughts on Europa Park. I love this place. That being said, a word of caution. I've mentioned how I would compare this place more to Disney than I would Cedar Point. Don't go in expecting the thrills that you do at some of these other huge amusement parks. By no means does Europa Park have the amount of thrill rides that some of these other places have, even other parks in Germany. So if you're a thrill seeker, this might not be your favorite park in Europe. I know personally, this was not my favorite park in Europe. However, if we are disregarding roller coasters, for any park in America, we aren't looking at the roller coasters. We are just looking at the park itself. This is the best. It has the theming, the immersion, the shows, the food, the experience, everything you could possibly want in a theme park. So, to answer your question, should you visit Europa Park? If I haven't convinced you already, listen. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you love roller coasters or if you're just a casual fan. If you are visiting Germany, please visit Europa Park. I can promise you, 100%, you will not regret it. If you visit Europa Park for the first time and regret it, please email me and we'll talk because I'm genuinely interested because I don't think a single person has ever visited Europa Park and said, you know what, I didn't really like it. It may not have the world's greatest thrills, but what it does do is absolutely amazing. And it is something that I think everyone at some point in their life should experience. But hey, that's just my take on Europa Park in Rust, Germany. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've been here, what your thoughts are on it. And of course, stay tuned for more park reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll catch you guys later.